Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining me tonight on another edition of Spanning the Need. I'm your host, Anthony Spano. Tonight, we're going to talk about life, a nice, good playground, but a different type of playground. And to do that with us today is the board president of the Walnut Grove in Canfield, Ohio, Corey Patrick. Corey, thank you for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. Well, we'll get into kind of talking about how different this playground really is, because not maybe people may not know about it, and it's still brand new.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk a little bit about your background and kind of how you got up to this point?
Sure. So I am from Mahoning Valley. I'm from Youngstown, born and raised in Struthers. Left the area for a little bit for school and transferred to YSU. Went to YSU for marketing, and just through the course of some of my extracurricular activities, I met somebody who at the time was a board member for the Walnut Grove, and she said, "Hey, we really need some help with marketing. We're getting ready to build this thing, and we need help getting the word out there." So about 4 years ago, actually, I joined the board of directors. Started just doing all of their social media, making some of their marketing collateral that they needed to go in front of donors, and help develop the website and make the changes and just really grow sort of the brand and the recognition that it has to this point. So about 4 years ago, I joined the board, and since then I've helped in almost every aspect of really getting the place up and running, and led to my time as becoming the board president for the past year. So my background is marketing. Professionally, I work for the Youngstown Business Incubator, and I have a lot of experience working with small business and nonprofit and startups. So everything that I went to school for and everything that I do on a day-to-day basis really just sort of made sense with helping grow this project to be the playground that it is today.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about the playground here, but what makes you want to volunteer in the community? What kind of motivates you?
Yeah, so I sort of just grew up with that mentality of giving back when you can. And I grew up with that mentality of, giving to those that are less fortunate. And I was fortunate enough to grow up in a house where we could give back in certain instances. And nonprofits have always just held a very special place in my heart, to be able to give back and make an impact in the community. And what makes this project sort of hit home is, we'll talk about how this project is really designed for individuals with special needs. And though I don't have a direct connection to somebody with a special need, in terms of, the mental aspect of it, or autism, I don't know anybody personally with that, but I do have an aunt who has MS, and it hit her really hard, probably 2 or 3 years after she was diagnosed. And it's to the point where it's progressed where she's in a wheelchair. And when her daughter had her first child, seeing my aunt not really be able to interact with her granddaughter in a way that a typical grandparent would, they couldn't go to a playground and play. This playground really allows anybody to have that same experience. And if you're in a wheelchair, everything just about is wheelchair accessible. So for me, the personal connection really sort of tugged on that heartstring, and made me want to be able to do what I could so that there's a place for people like my aunt where they can go and still have that same experience with their grandkids.
Well, and it seems like you kind of have now a personal connection to what you're doing now. When they came and asked you about this project, what was your response? What was your first response?
My first response was, "What is it?" Because I had not heard of it. My first response was, "Well, what really is it, and what do you need?" Because at the time when I joined the board, I was just finishing up my time at YSU. I think I joined the board in October, September. And I graduated in December. So I was like right at the end of my college career. I was looking for a job. And as someone who was at that point in their life, there was a lot going on. There was a lot of moving parts. And I wasn't really sure if I could commit to the financial piece of it, if I could commit to the time piece of it. And at that time, I was fresh and I was young, and I wasn't really sure that my professional experience was really enough. But over the course of the 4 years, it's been interesting for myself to see how much I've grown in terms of my ability to do the marketing stuff, and how much it's changed since I joined the board 4 years ago. So my initial thought process was, I really didn't know if I could do it. But when I learned more about the project, it just hit home, and it was like, I will make time for this. This is something that I want to do. And, looked at my schedule and shifted things around so that I could be at the meetings and do what they needed to get done, and we made it work.
Well, and let's now talk about the Walnut Grove and kind of what it's about. So tell people what the Walnut Grove is, where it's located, and kind of the background of it, and kind of how it got started to where it is today.
Yeah, so the history of it, I'll start with the history. The concept for the Walnut Grove came about in 2013, and there was a group of community leaders who were looking for more resources specifically for the Society of Individuals with Autism, for those individuals. And what started as the idea of a school, more of a formal building where they could do the educational piece for individuals with special needs, where they could do indoor activities. It really grew into this larger project, which encompasses a playground, some miracle fields, eventually a building, some pavilion to do events, whatever the case may be. So what started as a very small idea for a school grew into this larger project. And we had a donor step up and was willing to donate the land. We are located on Columbiana Canfield Road in Canfield, right near Western Reserve. We have 20 acres of property, and what's there now is a 1 acre playground, and the entire playground is designed for individuals with special needs in mind. So all of the ramps are wheelchair accessible. Throughout these 20 acres of property, there is some natural bike paths, some walking paths in the back. There's a bridge that connects to the Mill Creek Metro Park bike path. So everything that we've done is designed for individuals with special needs. 2 wheelchairs can pass on all of our walkways or paths. Everything is wide enough for that. Like I said, the equipment, the ramps are built so that individuals with special needs or walking disabilities are able to sort of navigate that. The surfacing is a poured in place rubber, so it's not harsh if somebody falls. It's softer for people who might have problems with walking, if they might drag, their feet or whatever the case may be.
Almost like a very type of foam.
Yep.
That you might like on a bed or something, like one of those foams that it gives.
Yeah, there's a little bit of give to it. Yeah, it's seamless, which is also nice, so that the transitions are easier as well. We have, zip lines in the back, and there's 2 typical zip lines where you hang on and you sit. But for someone in a wheelchair, there's also a seated version where it comes over like a crate and you just transfer into the seat. So everything is designed that if you're in a wheelchair, you can be transferred and put into an actual seated thing. We have this piece of equipment called a we-go-round, which is sort of like a merry-go-round, but it's much smaller. But you can roll right into it and still get the same experience. So everything is done really to assist with that sensory development, give everybody the same sort of even platform.
I can only imagine the wheel go round. I remember those days just as a normal kid, where even if you're sitting on it, you get dizzy quickly.
Yeah, and it's really cool. Everything is, we worked with this equipment company called Pentura and Landscape Structures, and the equipment is just absolutely amazing. I mean, even just the design of it, everything is meant to be sort of vibrant and lifelike down to the colors, and everything is smooth and there's no harsh transitions or harsh stops of anything. And the equipment is really, really cool. And we've seen a lot of smiles and a lot of laughs out of people who haven't had that experience before. So it's very rewarding.
So when did the playground open?
So what started as the idea in 2013 did not come to fruition until 2017, I believe. The summer of 2017, maybe 2018 was the very first phase. So the playground was in two phases, and it's a sort of an octagon shape. The first phase, which was the center portion, which is your typical ramps, slides, roller tables, the more traditional, I would say, equipment. That was all the first phase, which I believe was 2017, late 2017, summer. The second phase is the outer ring of the playground, and that is there's a sand pit, there's pretend play structures. So there's a facade of a hospital and a facade of a ice cream shop and a fire truck, and it lets kids have that imaginative piece. The zip lines were in phase two, and then there's also some regular swings as well. Phase two came about in 2018 or 19. I think my years are a year off.
I think all of our years are off in some capacity in the last
year has thrown everything off. So
I can only imagine. I mean, you're looking at nonprofits that have lost fundraisers, that have lost opportunities to fundraise. Everything's kind of moved online, and you don't get everyone that you normally get, because depending your donors, they could be older donors, younger donors that may not have access to social media platforms.
Right.
So it's been kind of a difficult thing. So I can only imagine what the pandemic has had.
Yeah. It's thrown everything off for us. So, like I said, the playground itself came in two phases, and we took this year to do really sort of nothing. We wanted to have a down year to focus on fundraising and to focus on sort of growing the piece of it that will let us be self-sufficient, for years to come. And obviously with the pandemic, that really took a number on things. We didn't have that ability to really grow that piece of it and do the outreach and do the fundraisers like we were hoping to. So this year has been, I had grand plans, of course, for making this a sustainable nonprofit and growing it to the point where we have a staff, or even just a couple, part-time people. We have no staff right now. So everything that we have there, all 20 acres are maintained by volunteers, because the whole thing is not obviously landscaped, but there's some maintenance and some upkeep that we have to have for the rest of the property. Trash duty is all done by our board and by volunteers. So I had grand plans for, trying to grow it and make it sustainable and getting us some true help, but COVID has shifted things. So we are more optimistic for 2021, of course, but
Well, let's talk about that. So is the park or is the playground open now?
It is. Yeah, we have reopened. We closed for probably 6 months to try and really figure out what is the best way to clean it and keep it clean and, help with that piece during COVID. We didn't want to just open it and say, play at your own risk, because we felt like the community that our facility is designed for, it's designed for individuals with special needs, but it is open and we welcome every single person, no matter what your ability is. So just given the fact of who it's designed for, we wanted to be cognizant that we're being mindful to that population and making sure that we were keeping them safe as well. So we have reopened for this year, but we changed some things. So we do not have a restroom at the property yet, just because of the funding aspect of it. That is coming in 2021, though. So we are.
That's a major project in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like some of the things that we shifted were there's no portable restroom facility there, for the rest of this year, obviously, because we're getting into winter. But when we did reopen, we decided not to have that piece of it. And we did that for, a couple of reasons. Obviously, cost. We don't have money coming in, so we really can't afford to pay for that. But if somebody has to use a restroom, that is keeping their time a little bit less at the playground. So it's keeping more of a turnover, not obviously trying to limit spreading those germs, but we put hand sanitizer stations throughout different parts of the playground. We changed our park rules so that there's no food and drink to sort of limit trash and those types of things. So we made the shifts and the decisions that we felt we could manage as a volunteer board. But it's hard to keep your finger on the button of a facility of that size when there's 13 board members who are all volunteers and all have full-time jobs. So
yeah, I think I can relate to that. And let's talk about the pandemic and some of the challenges that you guys have faced. You've already talked a little bit about how you changed kind of the mentality of no food, no keeping things very minimal on the playground. What other challenges have you kind of faced? And you've probably faced them just like every other nonprofit in the area. What have kind of been some of your big things that you guys have tried to overcome?
So one of the things that's been quite difficult is with our equipment, the finish of the equipment cannot take any bleach. So everybody's first reaction to coming to the playground was, oh, I'll just take Clorox wipes and wipe down the stuff before or after my kid uses it. And while that's great and smart, that damages the equipment and severely shortens the life of the finish, causing it to rust much quicker. So we've had to really try and be cognizant of trying to, ask people politely to not use bleach products, getting, a cleaning product that is safe for our equipment, but also safe for individuals. So just educating ourselves on the proper things to use was quite challenging, especially at the start of COVID before, we had the information that we do now. Additionally, like I said, the funding piece of it has, really sort of tightened up. We are very, very fortunate to have some of the donors that we have that we've still been able to work with through COVID, just to make some things happen. But it's not nearly, what it was in a normal year. So we've had to sort of get creative with our fundraising because we still have expenses. One of our greatest expenses for the playground is our insurance and maintenance costs. So we've done a couple purse raffle fundraisers, one that we just finished up. We're getting ready to pull those tickets probably within the next week or so. But it was a different way for us to still stay engaged with our audience on social and still bring in some funds to help offset those costs. So one of the greatest things about it is we have a really great following on social media. And every time we have sort of an announcement or an update, the outreach piece has been great in sort of spreading the word. And our families that are frequent flyers of the park, really stay connected with us, and they know what we need and what's going on and what they can help with. So we've been very fortunate in that aspect of COVID.
Well, and let me ask you this, and I know, and you could probably answer to this question is I think the average right now in the Mahoning Valley is that a lot of nonprofits have lost probably between 30 and 40% of their revenue, or I should say fundraising. Is that about what you guys are at too?
I would say, yeah, probably about that, probably about 30 to 35.
Because I know there's been a lot of COVID-19 response funds that sometimes nonprofit organizations that have all volunteer boards and no staffs, that money's hard to obtain because
Right.
you have overhead expenses, but nothing that could fit to those COVID-19 specs from either the PPP or any of those loans.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had people reach out to us and they're like, oh, there's this available for you, and we don't have any paid staff, so some of those funds don't apply to us. So it's been a challenge. Now, I will also, let me just clarify that I would say that number is within respect to our private donors. We are very fortunate to still have had some foundations that have stepped up and approved some of our funding requests, because though we were very inactive in terms of just stuff going on and people at the playground and using the facility, we wanted to take the year to let things cool down, regroup, pay attention to where we need to grow and what we need to focus on next as the next really big construction piece. So we have some funding in place to sort of move forward with the next piece of construction, which is going to be expanding our parking lot and a restroom facility. So, pre-COVID, there were days I would drive by the playground just to drive by because there would be so many people there. They were parked in the grass, they were parked in the gravel, they were parked in the mud, and the parking lot was full. So pre-COVID and in the nicer weather, I mean, you were hard pressed to find a space to even just be. So we recognized that, and we wanted to do something about that as well. So we've got some funding in place to move forward with that and put in the restroom facility, which is a big need that we've been wanting forever, but it's the property is wetlands. A good portion of it is natural wetlands, so a lot of it we can't build on. There's also no utilities or running water out there, so we have additional challenges in terms of being able to have these facilities that we need and how to make them work properly. So,
and that will get expensive, digging either a well or bringing out water to that location.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of I guess non-traditional expenses that for lack of a better term, we're a startup and we've got a lot of non-traditional expenses that most startup businesses don't have. So as a nonprofit, they just are a little more pronounced.
We talk about your I think you said 12-member board.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of volunteers do you have overall? How is your volunteer base?
Yeah, so with our board is quite diverse in the fact that we have some institutional banking. We have someone from the Mill Creek Metro Park system. We have a few individuals who work directly for other nonprofits dealing with individuals with special needs. So we're diverse in that regard. But what is very interesting about our board is that we are not a board of we're not the most prominent names in the community, I would say. We're not people who can just call and make money appear for our nonprofit. We are the hardworking doers, and we are the ones who are not afraid to get our hands dirty because we know that if we don't do it, it won't get done. So we're very tight knit. We communicate very well, and we're very fortunate that our board has put in a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of hours, especially when we do our big fundraiser called Swing Wine and Dine, which we've done every year. And when it comes time for that fundraiser, I think the first year we did that, it was 200 people, maybe 250. And it's grown every year to last year, I think there was 425 people or something, some large number. So we've had really big growth in terms of our events and that outreach piece. And our volunteers, in addition to our board, the group of volunteers that we have put in so much hard work and so much effort that it really shows that it's not just about being involved with the community for them. It's that the message and the mission of our organization is just something that really recollects with them, and the fact that they can see their impact being made, especially for the special needs community, it makes them want to do more. And we're very, very fortunate to have the board and the volunteers that we do have.
Well, let's talk about, is that swing your biggest event of the year?
Yeah, Swing Wine and Dine is our biggest event of the year.
Now, did you have that in, usually you have it in, I think, February of each year?
Correct. Yeah, we usually have it in February. I think this past year, 2020, we had it a little bit later than we usually do. We had it like a week or two later, but it was at the end of February before the shutdown. So
before everything kind of hit
before everything went full blown panic quarantine shutdown, we were able to get that event in. So,
and what are your projections for this 2021? Are you looking at having the event this year, or are you looking to go virtual?
Yeah, so we tentatively right now, we are looking to push it back towards April or May. We want to do it a little bit later in the year because we don't know what 2021 will bring with COVID. So we are looking to do it a little bit later, but we are also looking at doing it virtually and shifting it. In the past, it's been a very traditional fundraiser where it's a dinner and an auction and basket raffles, and we're looking to sort of spice it up a little bit. We've done it for four years now, so we want to do something a little bit new and a little fresh, but we are looking at doing a virtual fundraiser for 2021.
And that's kind of how do you take, normally a lot of fundraisers have been the normal, hey, go to a charity event, drink wine, have dinner. How does that change the way you think of stuff when you have to now do it virtually? Do you charge? What are your thoughts on that just moving forward?
Yeah, so, that is all something that we still need to work out the details. And fortunately, one of our board members has experience doing virtual fundraisers for his company. He is I believe, the executive director for the Rich Center for Autism. And I know they've done a couple virtual events. So he has been great and a wealth of knowledge in terms of, telling us what's worked and what hasn't. And, from the feedback that we've gotten, not even just from him, but from some other people as well, the virtual fundraisers have been better than expected. So we're hopeful that, we can sort of maintain our base of donors and people that attend, and still have that same result. One of the things that we're looking to do is how do we make it interactive and fun, because we don't want it to just be a webinar where we're talking. So there's some different platforms out there that sort of help with that. There's I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but there's an auction platform that allows you to have that interactive piece. But if somebody can't make it the night of your virtual event, the auction can stay open for a week and you can still have that social media engagement and push it on social and see what kind of feedback you get. So there's a couple different platforms that we're exploring right now, but again, who knows what 2021 will bring. So
yeah, and I think that is a big hole when people have to go virtual, because you're charging for a ticket.
Exactly.
And that's kind of the base of it. But now you go to an online, it's like, okay, do we even charge a fee to even watch this?
Right. The ticket piece of it is, I believe our tickets were, I don't know, $50 a ticket. So $50 a ticket at 400 people, or I think even if it was less, $25, $30 a ticket, whatever that ticket price is, but average that out at 350 people, that's a lot of money right there. Plus, sponsorships, you have to get a little creative with a virtual event. I mean, our title sponsor gets their name on everything. They have 3 tables. They have wine at the tables. They have speaking time. I mean, trying to give your sponsors that same benefit is also a challenge. And we don't have all the answers. Just in full transparency, we don't have the answers. So it'll be
I don't
exciting to
think
see how it goes. But
I don't think anyone has the answers right now. I mean, if you really look at it, they talk about this vaccine coming after the new year, but how much is it really going to hit the U.S.? What's that look like? Does it look like April, May, June, June, July, or whenever? And I think that puts everyone at kind of like you're going to have to make a decision after the beginning of the year.
yeah, yeah, and it's just it's a crazy time to think about what's going on. I mean, it's even hard for us to sort of sit back and think like it doesn't feel like it's been 9 months at this point. It to me
It
it
feels
feels
longer.
like 2 months ago I was just going home and working from home in March, and we're in December already. So it's crazy to me how fast it seems like the year has gone, even though some of the days were so long. So um, looking forward to next year and doing events and that piece of it are going to be really interesting because even considering a virtual event, one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we've gotten, and I agree as a marketer, you don't want to do it from a cell phone just to do it. You want it to have that professional, production value, sort of just that visual piece of it has to be on par if you're going to try and raise a lot of money. So trying to find the knowledge and the expertise and still maintaining the social distance piece, and if you have to have people in the same room, I mean, there's so many factors that go into this that nobody just has the answers to. So it's going to be
And then when you get into that production part, there goes money right out the door, unfortunately.
Exactly. So we've been very fortunate with just the community has really stepped up in a lot of ways over the past 3-4 years. So we're very hopeful that we can still maintain that. But at the same time, one of my biggest goals is not to have to lean on everybody for everything. I would love to see this organization grow to the point where we have some stream of revenue and we have, a part-time person to maintain some of this stuff for us so that it's not on the backs of our board.
It's hard. It's hard when you're working a full-time job and trying to do, and I don't think sometimes people don't realize that no matter what position or what they are in the community, because you're working, it's like having kids. You have a full-time job and you have kids.
Yep.
The nonprofit is your child.
And something like this where we have, a pretty big facility, it's very, I would love to find another board who has their board members go out and empty trash cans on a weekly basis. I mean, it is not the traditional experience of being a board member by any means. But like I said, we all have that mentality that it's so rewarding. We have to do it to get it done because we don't want to see this playground not be here in 10, 15, 20 years. We want this to be part of the community for a long time. And I think everybody agrees with that mentality that we got to do it.
It's just COVID is making it a little bit harder.
Like everything else.
Anything you've learned out of COVID that you maybe not have learned without it?
That I've learned from COVID is, and I think this was for partially just by being in Mahoning Valley and in Youngstown. It's very easy to live in the valley, go to your same job every day and get comfortable and be content and complacent. And COVID has disrupted that mentality, at least for me, severely. So COVID has been the time for me, to want to do things differently, because we've had to do so much differently. We've been forced to think differently. I mean, it was crazy to me when in January, I could have walked into a store with no mask and thought nothing of it. In early March, I was probably thinking, this is crazy. Why are we doing this? And now, if I go anywhere and I see somebody without a mask, I'm like, don't come near me. I mean, just changing that mentality of like what used to be normal and what used to be constant and complacent has made me think differently about other aspects where it's now I don't want to think comfortable and I want to break out of that. So for me, it's just been a lot of a mindset shift.
What are some of so we've talked a little bit about um, the playground, what kind of things you're looking at. What is planned for the future of the playground? What are some of the expectations? Hopefully, we get out of COVID pretty quickly here, but has COVID put kind of a damper on your scheduling of
Um,
where you are?
I would say that it's probably pushed everything back about a year to 2 years. Um, the next so the most upcoming things will be expanding our parking lot and a restroom. After that, we are in talks to bring some sort of pavilion structure, something that we can rent out for parties, holidays, whatever, so that we can start to bring in some of that revenue that we need in order to be a little bit more self-sufficient. And then no specific timeline yet, but just future plans for development. Something that's been on the plan since the very start will be Miracle Fields, a second restroom facility, and then if we have the funding in place, and I would say that this is probably at least 10 years down the road, we would still look at putting some sort of facility or structure to do indoor activities and indoor events. That's been on the plans since the very start, and our layout has changed a little bit just with what we have there currently. We've sort of reworked things a couple times, but the immediate things which we were hoping to do in 2020 are now pushed back to 2021. So I would say COVID has probably pushed us back between a year and 2 years for our entire plan. But our entire plan, what we conceptualize is obviously dependent on our revenue and how we can make this sufficient. So we've got some great ideas. We've got board members who have really great ideas that we're sort of trying to talk through and see what might be best for us in the short term, but or in the long term, but no official plans yet. So
If someone's watching this and you're looking for volunteers, what kind of maybe volunteer opportunities do you have for them? If maybe not now, but maybe once we kind of get back in the summer swing of things.
Yeah. So the biggest need from volunteers at this point is we just need help maintaining the playground and maintaining the landscaping. Landscaping is a huge expense, but it's critical. Our landscaping is a critical design element for the playground. So we do not have a fence structure in place, but the landscaping that we've put in is designed to grow into this natural barrier and be a natural fence. So maintaining the landscaping is one of the biggest needs that we have, and it's a huge expense that we cannot afford to pay for right now. So if you have a green thumb, we need people with green thumbs really badly. The facilities upkeep is our biggest daunting task at this point. So volunteering to help that, we have different areas that we can break off and let somebody sort of manage if they're up for that and willing to do that piece. Additionally, we really could use some volunteers with our fundraising committee. We are constantly meeting with our fundraising committee, even just by email, to come up with the next idea and come up with something that is original, but speaks to our mission and is fun and playful and can really, drive that interest in the project. So if anybody is interested in, in fundraising. We would love to have more volunteers to assist with that. But quite honestly, we are looking for passionate individuals who, just have a knack for nonprofit and have a passion for this community. And if somebody is willing enough, or if somebody wants to step up to the point where they have an interest in this project, deeper than just being a volunteer, I mean, we're open to that. We are at a very critical point where we need to grow our board. We need more help. We need more minds. We need more talent. We need more access to people that we don't know. So we're really at a point where we're looking at things differently, and we're evaluating what our next steps need to be as a board.
Well, and I think a lot of nonprofits probably need that as well. Just the people, the intuition, the really volunteering and giving back.
Yep, I completely agree.
Corey, I appreciate your time. I know you have a busy schedule, but I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. Now I'm going to get to the phase where I ask everyone. I got 5 questions for you.
Okay.
That I ask everyone at the end of the show. But I will say this. I forgot to say this. If anyone wants to volunteer or donate to the Walnut Grove project, what do they do?
They can go to thewalnutgrove.com. Everything is on our website. You can donate right from the website. You can request information from the website. You can sign up to be a volunteer on our website. Or by all means, please feel free to reach out to myself or one of our other board members. You can, send me a connection on LinkedIn, find me on Facebook, send me an email at corey@thewalnutgrove.com, COREY. There's many ways for you to reach out to us, and reach out to us through our Facebook page. It comes directly to me. Call our phone number comes directly to my cell phone. If you want to get involved with this project, I am the gatekeeper, so you can get.
Ooh, the gatekeeper. I like that.
The gate is open. We want the help. We need the help. The gate is open.
The gate just swings, so just keep coming through. And if you can't find them, and if you just Google the Walnut Grove, Canfield, Ohio, it will come up.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to ask you 5 questions. I ask everyone who's on my show at the end. It could be a personal or a professional answer, depending on what you see fit. So the first one is best accomplishment, personal or professional.
Best accomplishment would be, I'm going to go with professional. In my day-to-day job at the YBI, the Youngstown Business Incubator, best accomplishment, I have grown our marketing department to what it is. I was the first person that they've ever hired, and I have a lot of pride in that. So over the past 4 years, it's been really interesting to sort of see our brand grow and our recognition, and just sort of keep that mentality and keep that recognition going across the Mahoning Valley and Northeast Ohio, because we work across all of Northeast Ohio. Okay.
Especially the group you work with is a bunch of fun group.
They are pretty fun.
Best memory.
Oh, best memory.
These are harder questions than the other ones, aren't they?
Yeah. So best memory. So I work in digital marketing, obviously, and my best memory would be I went on a cruise last summer, pre-COVID, and it was the first time since I had graduated college where I did not have cell phone access or internet service for a full 7 days. And it was the best thing that I've ever done. I've been able to, didn't have a phone, didn't have a computer, had no access to anything. And that was my best memory, because I was in the moment and not looking at my phone or worrying about getting a Facebook notification or something. That was my best memory. That was a fun trip.
I think when I got married last year in September, and I think kind of mine was when I was in Europe, when I didn't have no internet connection. Mm-hmm. Other than when I needed to make an emergency phone call or something, I would get on it. But other than that,
yeah, it was a nice break.
Best experience.
Oh, best experience. Wow. Best experience. That's a
Hard
great.
hitting, aren't they?
I know. You're making me think on a Tuesday.
Don't worry, I got all your colleagues too, so you can.
Best experience, I would say, when I was in college, I delivered pizza for a Pizza Hut, and I worked there for 7.5 years. And some people might be thinking, why is this the greatest experience? But I learned a lot in those 7 years driving my car and delivering pizza, and I met a lot of people. And I say that it's my best experience because I still use that to this day. I still, have these relationships that I've built with my customers over the past 7 years that, like, I'll still talk to them on LinkedIn and ask them for a connection to somebody, or they come to me and I refer them to somebody else. So I say it's the best experience because in the moment, I mean, delivering pizza sucked and you smell like grease and it's really not that great. But the people that I've met from doing that have been really interesting. I would say that's one of my best experiences, at least.
Who's your role model?
My role model. That's a great question. I would say my role model would probably be my one aunt. She is very multifaceted, always has something in the fire, but does it with a lot of grace, and she does it with a lot of almost ease, where, I feel like I really recollect with that because I've always got a lot of irons in the fire, and I feel like I'm going 500 miles an hour internally, but externally, just having that grace and that poise where you can do all of these things and everything is okay, really just sort of recollects with me. So.
Okay. So listen, this one you need to understand. Here we go. If there was one person you would want to meet, past or present, who would it be and why?
There was one person I would want to meet.
Now, if you can't think of one and you think of a couple, that's fine.
There's a few for sure. I would say one person that I want to meet. Very interesting. I would like to meet. Man, I don't know. There's so many. There's so many good ones. That's the thing. I would like to meet. I'll phrase it this way. I would like to meet somebody like me that I don't know. So I would like to meet somebody who, I don't know. No, I don't like that answer. This is a really hard.
Hey, everyone goes through it.
I know. I don't know. I don't know. That's a really interesting question. I don't know. Who would I like to meet?
Just for the record, I have all day, so I can sit here and...
Can we cut some of this out? There's going to be a long pause here. I think I would like to meet past or future. I'm going to go with actually this answer. I would like to meet my future self right now, because there's a lot of stuff that makes me really wonder, a lot of events, just life events, COVID and everything else happening. A lot of the time I will sit and I will just think, like, man, I wonder what is going to happen. And it's completely out of my control, and it's not something that I really want to worry about. And I try not to do that, but I'm just really intrigued by, like, how much personal growth I feel like I've done over the past 5 years. So I'm looking forward to meeting my future self to see how I've navigated COVID and 2020 and the next 5 years post-COVID.
There's nothing wrong with that, because sometimes I'd say I want to meet myself back in college and say, don't do this, this, and this, and be perfectly fine with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But
And I almost phrased it that way, but seeing the things that I've accomplished since my time in college, I think I'm okay. So I would just like to see how I continue to grow.
just jump to retirement.
I would love to. I would love to.
Well, Corey, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you got a lot going on, especially during COVID. So thank you for taking time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And I just appreciate the time and the opportunity.
Not a problem. You're always welcome. And we hope to get you back in the future to talk about future plans and where you guys are for Walnut Grove.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Check out anthonyvspano.com for more interviews and podcasts. Please stay safe during this pandemic, and God bless everyone. Good night.